With this 4-week break at the start of the F1 season, it's easy to assume that the Formula 1 drivers are all on their holidays relaxing on the beaches of Monaco. But this is not quite the case. In fact, it's critical that these high-performance athletes stay at their peak fitness so that they're ready for the demands of Baku, Miami and the rest of the season. But why is this important, and how do they do it? It's a common misconception that Formula 1 drivers aren't athletes. After all, we can all drive a car, right? But in reality, Formula 1 drivers are exposed to punishing G-forces, temperatures and physical conditions each and every single time they drive. The sheer straight line speed and braking power of a modern Formula 1 car means that the drivers pull as much as 6G on some tracks, and the driver has to be able to withstand its effects on blood flow, blood pressure and the muscles themselves. To do so, the neck, chest and shoulders are key, as the G-forces on the head alone can mean it weighs up to 25 kilograms more than usual. Without this kind of training, the driver would struggle to keep their head upright and looking at the track. Braking is arguably where fitness is tested the most, as this is where the driver is exposed to the most G-force while also having to apply around 160 kilograms of force to the brake pedal to slow the car. But a driver doesn't just go through one corner per race, they're exposed to up to 27 of these per lap, with between 44 and 78 laps per race, depending on the circuit of course. You can do the maths, but that's an awful lot of braking and cornering. Where F1 races around the world also has an impact on the drivers' fitness regimes, and they'll often change their training program depending on the specific demands of the track they're going to next. Temperature and humidity have a huge effect on a driver, and in hot, humid climates like Singapore or Jeddah, a driver can lose up to 2.5 litres of fluid or 3 kilograms of body mass. Replenishing these liquids and relying on physical fitness to overcome exhaustion is important, as being dehydrated and tired can result in poorer cognition and decision making, and these drivers need to remain sharp during these demanding races. Keeping all of these demands in check when training is a job in and of itself, and each driver has a trainer who will balance this for them, keeping them well nourished and both physically and mentally fit. But what does a workout look like for an F1 driver? Unlike other elite sports, F1 drivers pay special attention to keeping their necks strong and conditioned. Doing so can result in some interesting looking exercises, with trainers using resistance bands and weighted helmets to mimic the forces that the drivers are under when cornering and develop their neck muscle mass. The core is a particularly important part of an F1 driver's regime, and often their training for this involves mimicking how their core is activated in the car itself. The driver might sit on the floor, raise their legs so they're in a similar position to where the pedals are, and rotate a weight plate as if it were a steering wheel. This type of dynamic exercise allows them to build strength in the way it will actually be used, but of course F1 drivers still do the conventional planks, sit-ups or bridges. While F1 does have power steering, the drivers' upper bodies are still an important area for them to strengthen. Exercises like pull-ups, bench press or press-ups are all part of an F1 driver's program to help them steer while under the intense forces and pressures they experience while driving. While the global movement of the wheel is one part of this, the more intricate, precise changes they make to the buttons, dials and levers on the wheel are another critical part of requiring very stable arms and wrists. F1 drivers don't neglect their legs though. To achieve the braking pressure and force needed to stop a modern F1 car, they focus on strengthening and stabilising their legs through lunges, squats and box jumps. Despite the importance of physical strength, the mental and cognitive aspect of driving in Formula 1 cannot be overlooked, and in modern F1, drivers and their trainers put a considerable amount of time into training their reactions and reflexes, hand-eye coordination, and also their psychological well-being. A Grand Prix can be incredibly fatiguing on a driver, but this doesn't always show physically, with things like poor judgment on attack or defense, an error when judging braking distances, or spins being the result of mental fatigue and reduced mental acuity. Maintaining speeds of up to 300 km an hour, all while conversing with their engineer, changing settings through the steering wheel, and racing other drivers all take their toll on a driver over a race, and those who are more physically fit are going to be better able to handle these demands even when they're exhausted. Keeping their focus and reactions in mind is something drivers train before a session with tennis ball catching exercises or flashing light response games to prime their body and mind for what it's about to go through. They draw on the idea that by exposing the body and brain to the stimulus, it will have a positive influence on their ability to do the same later on. Firing up their reflexes like this will make a driver more able to react quickly when the lights go out, when a crash happens in front of them, or when making a late move on the brakes. Driving in F1 may seem simple to us viewers, but for a driver it's often a brutal, demanding, physically and mentally exhausting process. Taking the time to construct a fitness regime and lifestyle that helps the body withstand the pummeling it takes in an F1 car can help the driver achieve their best over a race weekend. But trainers and drivers all acknowledge the importance of downtime in this regime, balancing a few cheat meals and rest in with the protein shakes and workouts. So yes, F1 drivers really are high performance athletes. Do you think you could train like an F1 driver? Leave us a comment, like the video if you enjoyed this insight, and make sure to subscribe to Apex for the latest in the F1 world.